Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey everybody, it's Leah Riley here.
Hello, it's Megan.
Hi there, it's Amy.
So we're pretty excited today because we're recording in that like funny week between Christmas and New Year's when time doesn't matter.
Meaning. No.
Time has no meaning. And we were not going to record this week. We kind of had recorded enough episodes. But then this month happened, which means Heated Rivalry happened. And is Heated Rivalry a K-drama? No, it is not. But what it is a romance. And you know what? At the core of this podcast, we are romance authors, we are romance readers, and we are romance lovers. So we are, breaking out of the K-drama bubble for today because we have been consumed with this show and we want to talk about it as romance authors and readers and fans. And so that's what we're doing today. And I know we're all excited about it because it's like a random Monday afternoon.
And Heated Rivalry just ended on Friday.
And we're recording this and we're going to get it out. And we know that our listeners have been watching Heated Rivalry. Like, I know many of you have been DMing me. Our Patreon has been talking about it. So we also know that we're not speaking into the void on this.
Absolutely not.
We know that Heated Rivalry has also, I cannot say rivalry. I can't.
It's like brewery. It's a hard word.
Brewery. Yeah. Rivalry. Anyway.
Rivalry.
We know it's entered our K-drama fandom as well. And so, yeah, that's what we're here to talk about. And I know we're all excited about it because we made time to do this. So we're going to get right into it. I think we're all on board with that. So let me start off by saying this is not going to be a deep dive. We're not doing a deep dive on Heated Rivalry. It's a discussion. We, again, as romance authors, that's how we want to talk about this. But in case, you've been living in a Stranger Things cave, we are going to give at least a brief description. So Heated Rivalry is a Canadian sports romance TV series written and directed by Jacob Tierney and is based on the Game Changers books series by Rachel Reid. So Heated Rivalry was made as an original show for the Canadian streaming service Crave, but after massive fan support and outcry, HBO also picked it up for streaming, distributing in the United States. And recently it was also bought by, or it's going to be distributed by UK's Sky, which will start airing in January. So, and it's, how many episodes is it? 6. It's 6 episodes. 6 episodes.
You could watch it in 5 minutes.
What'd you say?
That you can watch it in 5 minutes.
It feels like
it's
Heated Rivalry.
It's not enough. Everybody's season 2 better be 36 episodes.
Yeah, it feels like the entire season is both 5 minutes and also 25 hours all at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. So Heated Rivalry is about 2 rival hockey players who meet as teens and begin a decade-long affair that starts off as physical, but quickly morphs into a love story that has fans rabid. Hudson Williams stars as the Canadian wonder boy Shane Hollander, and Connor Story stars as the bad boy Russian Ilya Rozanov, who actually is a big old softy inside, but we will get to that later. Heated Rivalry is the highest rated TV show of the year on IMDb and has taken the romance community by storm. So we all have similar algorithms, and it's all over. It's all over, especially in the romance algorithm part of my social media. That's all anyone's talking about. So yeah, we're going to chat about it. And I guess the first thing is let's get into our initial reactions. How much did we love this? And also just what it means to us to see this on the screen as romance fans.
One of the first things that I noticed after getting a couple episodes in, because it obviously it takes a while for the actual relationship to get going because it starts out as a fling, right? They can only see each other when their teams are playing in the same city, playing each other and stuff like that. But once it started to get super into the romance, which is only like a couple episodes in, I would physically notice myself grinning like for the whole 50 minutes of the
Mhm.
episode. I'm like, I am still smiling. Like I am smiling this whole entire episode without even getting into the whole like romance of it yet. It just made me so happy for the 45, 50 minutes, however, because the episodes I think are under an hour. For however long the episode is, I thought about nothing else but Shane Hollander and Ilya Rosanov, and it was amazing. Like I forgot all of my worries,
Oh,
all of
right.
my cares. It was just them.
Just them. Only them. Yeah, it was, okay, and I want to compare this, when I first started watching K-dramas, I remember getting this feeling that was like, "Wait, we can get this? Like,
Yes.
I can actually get what I want on the screen?" Like, I you know, after watching romance, either like Rush or Not Well Done or whatever for forever, like for as long as, I've been watching whatever movies or TV. When I started watching K-dramas, it was amazing that I was finally getting what I wanted on screen. And having that's the same feeling I got when I started watching Heated Rivalry. I was like, I can't believe I'm getting this on the screen. Like, and it almost makes me upset that like we could have been getting this. Like I mean, romance novels have been this amazing for as long as time, but no one's taken the time to properly adapt it in a way that Heated Rivalry was done by Jacob Tierney.
So what's funny is when I first started hearing about this, the very first time I heard about this adaptation was from my husband, which is unusual. And
Yeah.
that's because he was obsessed with, or he still is obsessed with Letterkenny, which is the
Another Canadian show. Yes.
that is directed by Jacob Tierney. So he was like, he's like, did you know that the Letterkenny guy did a gay hockey show? Like he like had that as like a fun fact one morning at breakfast. And I was like,
Fun fact.
I did not. And within 4 hours, I feel like my life went from like having not heard that this adaptation was happening to like everybody was like, I felt like it happened like in that day. Like my husband being like, I've heard that this show got adapted. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I hadn't even like paid attention to the fact like Game Changers had been optioned or anything. And then all of a sudden it was just like everyone was talking about it. And it's also been fun because I feel as if like in my workplace, like the general public was like my general public and
Mhm.
again, I work in
Yes.
a place with women and queer people. And so, again, that's the demographic that's, I guess tuning in mostly for this. But that became really clearly like that became like my water cooler thing was like being able to be like, hey, Heated Rivalry. And everyone's like, oh my God, yes, this or that. Or I've been like reaching out to friends who I haven't chatted to in a long time. Like one of my really good dear friends, like husbands, has been like messaging me about it. And he's been like really like having a lot of fun and was really interested about like women being interested in gay romance stories and just like, and so it just opened up all these doors to like, my real life, I guess. And I felt like that was really fun. And I've kind of like deep dove more on like Jacob Tierney because as much as I'm going to give like romance and Rachel Reid and like her book The Flowers, the adaptation has been such an amazingly successful adaptation and really just kind of like blew my hair back of what happens when you can have good source material and then you can have an adaptation really just like pick up the spirit. And a lot of it is very close to the book. And then where it departs or it brings in different points of view, I think it's done really, really, really smart. I just want to read really quickly, like a little soundbite from Jacob Tierney from an interview he did with Toronto Life. He's given lots of interviews, but this one I thought just like summed up a couple good things. So he basically talked about how in the pandemic, which I think is fun because like we started doing K dramas in the pandemic, he started reading gay romance in the pandemic. which I think is really cool. And said that he didn't really understand that the breadth of the romance industry. And he came across this article about how romance is a $1 billion industry that doesn't get a lot of respect. And it was an article that was about hockey romance. And while he was reading it, he saw that Heated Rivalry was mentioned there. And it was a book that he'd really enjoyed reading. And he was just like, you know what? If somebody options this book and it's not me, I'm going to feel like super devastated about that. And so he ended up like reaching out to Rachel. She ended up being a Letterkenny fan. She's a hockey fan. And they started talking about the vision for the show. But what he says that I think is really important too, when it comes to like, and Megan, you and I have talked about this like recently, is that this is a really, even though there's a lot of angst in this show, it's a very joyful show. And so, it is like it's queer joy for adults is what he framed it as. So the characters aren't going back to like a miserable wife. This isn't like Brokeback Mountain. No one's self-harming. And he kind of mentions the fact that there's a tendency in queer art to focus on real tragedies. And he says sometimes it feels like we're telling stories about the McCarthy era or the HIV/AIDS epidemic. We deserve to have a gay show that is sexy, horny, and fun. And I just love that too, because that's what it delivers.
100%.
But the thing, watching this show, I had the same feelings that I have when I'm reading a romance novel. And I don't get that almost ever unless I'm watching a K-drama. Unless I'm watching a really good K-drama that does romance really well, which they do. Like K-dramas do romance well, but that's the only other time I've ever had that feeling. Hence why we've been obsessed with K-dramas for as long as we have, because it's the storytelling, it's the chemistry, it's the romance, and we don't get that here in like English speaking
Right.
shows.
Not like this. And I knew obviously it was a Canadian show. I didn't realize it was the same guy who did Letterkenny, which has been on my list for like years and I haven't watched it yet. And I do want to also add that like my two favorite television gay romances are on Canadian shows. So I think this just means I need to watch more Canadian TV because it's Heated Rivalry and it's Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. Thank you,
So
Canada.
the
Thank you. We
Canadians-
don't deserve this
Canadians
from
do it
Canada.
right. Yeah.
Like
I
we
know.
don't deserve this from Canada. Like we really
Thank
don't.
you.
We've been terrible. And us in America, I mean. And the fact that Canada
We
produced
love you,
this.
Canada. We love
Yeah,
you.
I mean, it's just insane. It's so insane. And so let's kind of talk about what this drama got right about romance. Because again, you can tell Jacob Tierney knows romance conventions.
Yeah, so if he
and-
started reading it in the pandemic, he caught right up.
Yeah, he like understands romance novels. He understands what makes romance novels appealing. He understands the cliches and tropes of romance, and he took them seriously. He didn't treat them as a joke. And I think I read somewhere where he said to Ted said to Rachel, like he promised her he would take this seriously. He's like, I will take the romance seriously. This is the story.
I love that.
But yeah, what do you think he got right? Because I have a lot of things that he got right about romance.
Yeah, so we were talking, I think one of the last times we recorded, and we were talking about how, and I think this was off air because we weren't talking about Heated Rivalry on the show. We were catching up. But I was trying to articulate like why this hits right for me as a cishet woman. And it is like seeing that men can love like that, right? Like seeing that they are capable of loving like that. And then I saw a TikTok just this past weekend that I thought I articulated it really well and why the show resonates with women, especially cishet women who have had or are in relationships with cishet men. Even though women are not the center of the drama, because there are women in this drama, but they are not the center. And it's funny that we talked about the Bechdel test, and now here we are, gushing about something that would fail it miserably, but the women are not the story here. Okay. But what I really liked about this TikTok, and I'm sorry that I don't have her name. I must have liked it, but I can't find it now. But the poster articulated it so well. And it's that we get to see men do all the emotional heavy lifting. The men guide the men. And there is, for me, something so gratifying about seeing men help each other to reach emotional maturity. Like, that's what I want out of a romance. like if I'm looking at it, from my point of view, is a man who can reach emotional maturity without the woman having to show him how.
Amy, we might have just hatched like the most enthusiastic BL watcher of our podcast.
We might have we might have broken Amy down.
It was never a matter of breaking me down.
No,
but it
I
was
know.
Like, yeah,
I
I mean,
know.
it was like this really hit it. Like it really struck that chord with me, and I was like, I fucking get it now. Like I get it. Like I've been watching all this, heterosexual romance because I insert myself into the story, right? As a single woman, I insert myself into the story, and I have a little fantasy, and it's fun. Same with like reading it, but I think the difference here is that I can take a step back and have the safety of like not being part of it and watching these men figure it out. And that's what one of my biggest comments was when we were talking about it like last week or the week before, whenever that was. Time has no meaning right now. Was this idea that same thing that you just said, Megan, about when we first started with K-dramas and we're like, oh, we can get this. And that's my thought with watching Heated Rivalry is, oh, we can get this. We can get men reaching emotional maturity on their own with other men. Like that was huge for me.
Hmm. So I am just there's been some really bad media about this show, but there's been some good ones too. So I do want to just cherry pick another thing quick. So this comes from Salon, where it's an article by someone named Melanie McFarland, where on Heated Rivalry, the smut is the point. Because I've heard a lot of discourse that I always just get like a little bit like arced up on right away, and I have to take a deep breath when somebody like starts to be like, well, isn't this just porny or porn, blah, blah. Like as soon as you start talking to me about
Yeah.
porn in this, I start to get heated quickly. So, so I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna say when I'm reading because I want to not plagiarize. So reading just a little bit from this article, where other seasonal romances whisk us to snow blanketed Christmas towns or gentle period settings. This is a front row, highly sexualized spectacle set in the realm of professional hockey, starring a pair of unknown actors. And I think that what she goes on to say in the article, which really resonates with me, and where I think people kind of miss the point if they just like see a few clips or they watch like the very first episode and they don't really understand what romance, like how romance is structured and what's going to happen, is so basically I'm going to just read this because she says it better than I can. Heated rivalry is doing
Hard.
something. Yeah, I know it is. Heated Rivalry is doing something with its in your face eroticism that few, if any, other dramas bother to attempt. It shows carnal craving as a means of circumnavigating emotional and cultural barriers. None of this is obvious in the first two episodes of the show's six-part season, which is light on establishing dialogue, the standard means of teasing out character interiority. It takes a few more episodes to realize it doesn't need to be. The sex is designed to do all the talking, enough to merit frequent usages of the terms smut and slutty in other enthusiastic coverage describing what the show has going for it. So basically, like what they're trying to do, like is I feel like the like there is like real intentionality to the entanglements rather than just like horn dogs looking for like the next hookup. It's like there's a lot of times where that is like in a K-drama, you might have a moment where the character starts doing a lot of exposition. Like K-dramas tend to do that as a convention. So somebody will walk away and they'll begin to talk about their interiority a lot, like what is happening for them on the inside, blah, blah, blah. And it was jarring to me at first because I was like, what are these monologues? But now I'm just kind of used to it and I enjoy it. But in this, you're getting what's happening there. Like, what is happening for the character? What is the emotion? What's the need? What's going on? And instead of talking it out or having kind of like an exposition monologue, they're doing it through sex a lot of the times, especially in the first two episodes. But it's becomes really like to me, to dismiss it as something like I'm not even gonna like dismiss porn. We can have a whole conversation on like sex and sex works at a different time. But I feel like to me, it's just again that like way to reduce something. Like, why are we so uncomfortable with the idea of sex and sexuality that we have to reduce it to something, put a label on it that is going to like other it? So porn, I feel like, is that label that you can put on it to be like, well, that's a thing that I can then like judge you with or like shame you with or identify myself as having some sort of superiority with you that like you like that porn stuff and I don't. And I just like that's how I personally take it when somebody starts to like ask questions about it being porny or
Same.
not.
Same. Absolutely.
So this kind of does lead to my next like discussion point is to talk about like the evolution of the sex in the show. But this, like, I like what you're saying, because one thing that struck me too about this show is I don't think he catered to non-romance fans. Jacob Tierney wrote this for romance fans. And you know what? We showed up for it. Like, this is the thing that, like, I just want to scream from the rooftops. It's like, if you cater to romance fans, we will come. We will come. We will watch your show. We will show up in numbers. We will highly rate it. We will talk about it on social media. And we will make these two actors stars. Like, we will.
And just to tie it back in one more time on my soapbox, one last time, is there's so much that people will be like, oh, women read more romance because they want to read porn or whatever. And again, no, you're looking at like sex is a type of connection, and getting to see it playing out in a show where they trust it to like do that job. Because in a book, when you're writing sex scenes, like you really get to know like for me, when I'm writing characters, like I often don't sit down with a fully formed, full, complete human with a voice in my head that comes out on paper. Every once in a while that happens, and that's lovely. But a lot of times I might be writing for like 20,000 words before I start to be like, okay, I'm starting to really get a sense of who this person is. I can hear their voice in my head when I'm writing them. And one of the ways that normally happens is once I start writing sexual scenes with that person, that's when I start to often like hear, because you're putting somebody in more vulnerable situations, or potentially not, like how do they interact? Is sex vulnerable to them? Is sex not vulnerable to them? How do they show up to be mad? Because in this, I would say that like in heated rivalry, while there's risk involved to the sex at the beginning, are they as vulnerable? No, they're much more vulnerable later on. Like the sex is really like like you can see how the intentionality changes with the characterization of it. And that's what happens in romance novels.
Yeah.
And so what you're like, and so the fact that he understood that to present it successfully makes all the difference to me. Like I really can't believe that somebody paid attention enough. And this isn't rockets. I guess that's the thing, is it's just
I
not
know.
rocket.
It's just it's so good. It's
And-
so
and-
good.
And like, that's the thing, is that, so all three of us write open door sex scenes, meaning like we write sex scenes. We don't write closed door, which is or fade to black. So we like know the writing of sex scenes. And I'm the same as you, Leah. Like my sex scenes have a point. Like they have a point in the evolution of the relationship. And there are many times where like I'll have like a later scene in my head, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to interact with each other yet, because I know that there's like a pivotal sex scene I have to write first. And I know that's an important scene for like the intimacy, for their relationship. And if you're a romance reader and you read like sexy books, you've come to expect that. You know that these sex scenes are important. You know that you typically can't skip the sex scenes. I mean, sometimes, yeah, we write some extra sex scenes that maybe don't need to be in there, but for the most part, they matter. And I absolutely loved watching like the evolution of the sex scenes in the show, because they mattered. I mean, the sex in the beginning was like rushed. It's like dirty talk. It's like kind of rougher. And then, I mean, one of the most pivotal moments of the entire show is, again, the tuna melt scene where they're intimate and they say each other's first names for the first time. It's not about the sex. It is, but it's also, I shouldn't say it is about the sex, but it's also about what that sex does to the people.
The sex is a catalyst. The sex
Yeah,
is
the sex is a
and
catalyst.
also like
It matters.
for the majority of humans, if you are fortunate, have you not had sex that's emotionally connective? Is
Right.
that hard? Is that like
Is it only porn? Is it only porn to you?
yeah, is
Yeah.
it only when you have sex? Like I'm like, who hurt you? Like what do you go to sex for? And of course, there are times where sex is just about getting off and moving on with your day. And like, fine. But like, I would like to think that many people have not had that experience and they've had something that feels a little bit deeper than that. And that you can understand why people would want to read that and engage in it because it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you can, if you watch the show, you see the evolution of their sex scenes. You see how things change between them. Um, and I just have to shout out, I've been listening, like some of like the straight male hockey podcasters are covering this. And there's one hockey podcast, and they're called the Empty Netters. And do I think they're covering the show because they're getting astronomical views? Yes. But as they're discussing the show, I know that they're actually engaged in the show because of their commentary. Like, it's not just reactions, like they're actually understanding the characters. And one thing I found really interesting was they talked about episode 5, the Empty Netter podcast, and the one host, his name is Sean. He mentioned that, throughout the sex scenes in heated rivalry, Ilya is very big in consent. He'll often say, "Are you okay? Is this okay?" And towards the end, there's like there's some funny sex scenes. There's one where Shane is on the phone with his friend Hayden, and basically Ilya decides to be playful and like try to give him a BJ. And Shane says, "No, stop." And at the beginning of the show, if Shane would have said, "No, stop," Ilya would have been like, "I'm going to stop. You said no." But the level, again, this is like a straight male podcaster saying this. He was like, I could tell though that they had become so comfortable with each other that even though Shane's saying like, "No, stop," Ilya's like, I know I can keep going. Like, I know Shane well enough
It's a
to know.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah, we are close enough. We know each other's body cues enough that I can keep going. And he does. And it's a really funny scene and it's amazing. But I thought that take was, first of all, really insightful. Like, good job, guys. Like, and I agree with it. And that also just shows like the importance of why this show had to be smutty, because that was the story. Like, a massive, I don't know how you could have told Shane and Ilya's story in any way that's true to their characters in the books without the smut. Because that is such a large part of their relationship, is that they start out with this like kind of transactional sex, and then it quickly shifts into something more. Because I saw Jacob Tierney say that like he had some execs who tried to be like, don't have them consummate their lust until season 2. He's like, season
Yes.
2? He's
Yeah,
like, what?
seriously.
That's not the story. That's not the story.
And also, we're not writing this for a pearl clutching audience. Like, we're writing this for the audience who
writing
wants it.
this for romance fans.
And the book is enemies to lovers who hate fuck to love fuck.
They do. That's the story.
And I think, and like, speaking of the evolution of the sex scenes, again, what I think is done so brilliantly with the way that they are filmed is, you're right, in the beginning, it is hot and heavy and butts all over the place.
Great butts.
Like, great butts that, I mean, if you look at the screen, there's a butt. And then we get to the midpoint where they have feelings for each other and they're starting to make this a regular thing. And I think we get a whole episode where it's fade to black. Everything's closed door because they get to be intimate with each other first. And then we get to the episodes where we get to see them being intimate with each other in bed, where they're actually, talking about their feelings, talking about stuff other than the fact that they're fucking. And I really love that part of the evolution, that we had this like midpoint of like, you know what? This is getting serious. You don't get to see right now.
Yeah, and also you can see the shift from like physical intimacy to emotional intimacy.
Exactly.
So then you start getting like the hot and heavy discussions, which
yeah.
are, and this is the thing, is that I was kicking my feet and giggling even more so for the emotional intimacy scenes.
100%.
100%.
Because that's what we want as romance readers. Jacob wrote this for us. Like, he wrote this. He got it. He just got
he was able
romance.
to get the book and be like, okay, I understand what the book is about, and I understand how to put that on a screen in a 6-episode format that is going to make sense and it's going to feel like the feelings you might get in a book, except because you have to, like, you do have to think about it creatively of how you're going to show some of those things. And it is fun. So I actually did the opposite, which is I watched the show first and then read the book. And that was a fun way to do it too. So once I started, I was like, I'm not going to go back and read it because I actually want to just be surprised now. So I watched the show, got the surprises from the show. And then going back and looking, I think I've just had a lot of appreciation to be like, oh, this is where it's like so close. Like that dialogue is absolutely taken from the book, lifted, put right in the show. And then there's the times where you can see that like a scene maybe like ends quicker in the book, but they mine it more in the show and it makes
Yes.
sense why they would. And
Yeah.
so it's like it's really good because it's it's the same story. It's just a little bit it's presented a little bit differently and it's presented because it's a different medium
Yes.
and it makes sense.
Yeah, I did read the whole series, by the way. So in case anyone wants to DM me about, I've read all 7 books. You can DM me if you want. I'll talk to you about it. But I did read the books. I think I watched like episode 1. I read the books, or I don't remember what I did, but I definitely read them like before most of the show. And I did find it interesting how I liked it. Like I thought the choices he made were like super smart because you do have to adapt it for the screen. So for me in the books, the tuna melt scene was like very big. Like the tuna melt scene was everything, was very important. And she spent a lot of time on the tuna melt scene. And then the club scene, as we all know, that comes after it was more of a like kind of like more of like the downhill slope of the aftermath of the tuna melt. Whereas to me, and this was my interpretation of the show, so people can feel differently, but I'm just saying for me, the tuna melt scene was the beginning of kind of like the catalyst, and then the club scene was like the pinnacle. The club scene was where everything crashed down for them.
It's the crisis point, basically.
Yes.
It is.
The club felt way more of a crisis point for me in the show than it did in the books. But again, people might feel differently. I just wanted to say for me, I thought that was I just felt differently but I loved it. Like I absolutely loved the choices. I thought the club scene worked really well on the screen in a way that
God.
I don't think you could fully get across in the books because you're not like there. You don't have like the pounding bass music, the flashing lights.
The tools that you're getting to have in the different mediums.
Yes.
The other thing that I think that went really well that wouldn't have worked in the book in the way that we were able to see it on the screen was when Ilya speaks Russian and gives the confession in the tunnel. In the book, they basically just say he now downloads, and then you go into Shane's POV where he's basically just like listening and receiving and like understands there's a lot of emotion being shared. Also, that Russian sounds sexy, but like you don't fully get it. And then there's like a little bit that goes back to Ilya where you understand kind of like the breadth of what he spoke about and that he did end up doing a love confession in it. And there's not really many other ways to like, like you could write it in different ways, but like the way she wrote it, like I'm not going to quibble with. Like it made sense why she wrote it the way she did. And then it also for the adaptation though, you get to have subtitles. And so it worked really well to be able to like actually engage in the download. You can see Shane not understanding it, but we get to as the writer or as the viewer get to be like scooted into the scene because we can read the subtitles of what's happening. And so it's really fun because we can understand where Shane doesn't get it, but kind of gets it. And then we can really connect in a lot with Ilya in that moment. Whereas if you were reading it, I think you just kind of like, it is powerful to hear it spoken in Russian.
Yes.
I completely agree. And I do because I obviously read it too. I don't know how you could write it in a way different than what she did that would have like a different impact. But in the show, you could present it in the way with subtitles that had like that really immediate like gasp effect, I feel like, for me, which it's really hard to do that in the books, I think, with like the translation, the Russian, whatever. But yeah, it was a real gasp moment for me. Gasp moment for me.
Gas.
Yeah, it did not give me gas. Although I don't know, my tummy hurt a lot. Okay. My tummy hurt a lot in the show. But that was a really amazingly acted moment.
Yes.
And and so much like I've been reading interviews about, the different ways that the men, Connor and Hudson, decided to like play these characters. And I mean, they shot this thing in like 37 days. It's insane to me that they shot this thing in 37 days.
Mhm.
And the way that they came to understand these characters so well, and I still am just, I'm blown away.
Let's talk about scenes we loved.
Yeah, let's do that.
Look, there's so many. Like, you already brought up the club scene, and I'm not gonna belabor the club scene, but I cannot get enough of pretty much every cottage scene, but in particular, stupid Canadian wolf bird. When Ilya is laying, I mean, the most like vulnerable and intimate. They're sitting outside. There's a fire going in the fire pit, sitting on a bench, and Ilya is resting his head in Shane's lap, right? And then a loon makes whatever its loon noise is in the distance, and he like startles. Ilya's like, "What the fuck was that?"
So funny.
And Shane's like, "A bird, I think." He's like, "That was a wolf. Like that was a, that sounded like a wolf. Like what the fuck was that?" And he's like, "No, it's a loon." He's like, "It's a Canadian bird." And Ilya says, "Stupid Canadian wolf bird." And
That's good, Amy.
thank you. Thank you. I can't get enough because it's like, it's Ilya finally being like cute and vulnerable with Shane, which he has not let himself be until this episode. And so it's a funny comedic moment, but it's the subtext of that. It's that Ilya can freak out at a bird call and be honest about it. And it's so sweet, so cute, and so funny. And I want stupid Canadian wolfbird tattooed on my body somewhere.
Mhm.
I can go next. So I'm gonna say my favorite scene at the moment is again from the cottage episode. I mean, goated episode all around.
Goated. Goated.
I loved the scene where it's Shane, Ilya, and Shane's parents, and they're all having pasta. And the dynamics are really fascinating because we see basically Shane's mom goes into like gay capitalism. Is basically like, okay, I love my queer son, but my baby's gonna get like 4 more investment properties from his sexuality now. Like, we're gonna make it for him. What are we gonna do with the brand deal? So she's just going into like her own little rabbit hole. And then Ilya does point out like at one point because she also they talk about how Ilya is maybe going to try to transfer up to a Canadian team and like play for Ottawa. And she was like, "Do you have no loyalty to Boston?" And Shane's like, "But he's got loyalty to me." And Ilya was basically like, I really see where like you get a lot of your quirky shit, basically. Like, I
Yeah.
really am seeing it. But what is really sweet to me in like the whole exchange is Ilya's comfortability being at the table. He's like hosing the pasta, and you start to think, is this the first time any like parental type of figure has cooked for him? Probably since he lost his mom at 12. So
Mhm.
he's there so comfortable eating the spaghetti, like really enjoy. So Shane's kind of having this melt. So Shane is like, and they're also in very different emotional states. Like Ilya's basically like, shit seems pretty good. Like dad just gave me good Russian vodka. Mom's crazy, but kind of I've already invested in that brand of crazy. So like I'm
Yeah.
liking it.
Yeah.
I'm eating my pasta. Like this shit's good. And like the weight of the world is kind of like off my shoulders at the moment. Whereas Shane starts to kind of like overload. And Rachel Reid's described that Shane does have autism. So he starts to have kind of like a little bit of a meltdown. He has to put his head down. He's really just like, I'm freaking out right now. Ilya also just goes like so comfortable boyfriend. And that's when you start to see like, here we have like without being heavy handed, just like the sex scenes at the beginning were maybe very graphic, but they were just kind of showing this is very physical. And then later you get to see like you're shown, not told, like there's a lot of sweetness happening. Now they're saying names, they're cuddling, they're being sweet with each other. Here they're at the table. Ilya's in front of the parents kind of for their first family dinner. And he basically just kind of like gives him like some really sweet, very short words of encouragement that kind of like bring him back to his body. Just like, you're with your people here. Like, you're with your parents, you're with me, you're with your boyfriend. And then he's like, that's the first time he describes himself as Shane's boyfriend. And Shane has his head on the table, just like flipping out. And all of a sudden he puts his head up like,
I know.
Ilya's like, yeah, probably. and then kisses him. And so you also just see they're comfortable showing emotion in front of the parents. So we get a sense without a lot of like this like coming, like there is kind of like some poignant conversations Shane has with his parents, but we really get to this thing very quickly where it's like this family accepts them for who they are. They feel comfortable being authentic and vulnerable, which shows that like they've worked their shit out. They've come through all their masks. They're fully in their identity of like who they are as people. And they're willing to share it with each other and with others like intimate in their circle. And so you really just get the sense that like here we are, like this is the HEA that we like, you know, even though we're not like at a full finite HEA, like we really are at the point where like that payoff has completely come full circle. And we see this couple that's like acting very much like a couple would act, that's in love, that has a strong future and a strong support system and has overcome their shit to be able to be like Ilya's like, I'm fully able to be vulnerable now. I'm fully able to demonstrate care. I'm fully able to own the boyfriend label. I'm fully able to show up and be like, I'm here for you, and basically be like another person like Shane's mom who would like burn the world down for Shane.
So good.
Yeah. For me, I'm gonna mention it again. I'm sorry, but it's the club scene because I just need to talk about why I loved it so much. I just think it was one of the best ways to translate what's on the page onto the screen in a way that like made it so much better. And again, nothing against Rachel Reid, but you can only do so much writing. You don't have strobe lights and you don't have music coming through the page. Maybe one day we will, but right now we don't. And so I have always said, like, I've never been like a rom-com watcher. I like to read rom-coms, but I'm just not a rom-com watcher. I just have never really been. And that's one thing I loved about Heated Rivalry was there's a lot of angst and yearning. Is there still joy? Yes, that's the best part is you get the angst and the yearning and the really, really good in your face conflict while still getting that like joy and happily ever after. And I think no better scene was like this club scene. I watched, so everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's when Ilya he went to the club to try to get Shane out of his mind. It's right after the tuna melt scene. And he recognizes someone and he realizes Shane is there at the club. And he does this like slow turn with tattoos, all the things she said, like the instrumental, this like slow turn. His eyes are searching the club and you see the minute his eyes find Shane. And I think that's the best part is like you're watching his eyes, Connor Story's eyes as Ilya, and you see like when his eyes find Shane. And just and also the scenes after that, which is when Connor goes home to like jerk off in the shower, or it's imagined. I don't know. Different people feel differently about that scene. And then you see also Shane having kind of like unsatisfying sex with Rose Landry.
So good.
And they both stare into the camera at you like it's our fault.
Breaking the fourth wall.
And breaking the fourth wall, and then the episode ends. And that was the moment for me. Like I watched that entire sequence with my mouth was open. I didn't close my mouth for 10 minutes, okay? And that was the point. I had been really into Heated Rivalry up to that point. Like, don't get me wrong. That was the point where I was like, shit, this is my entire personality now. And it will be for another year. Like, this is my personality. This is the scene that like, that's why I want to read romance. Because I want that like, kind of like angsty pain, knowing the payoff. That's what we want. Like, and so that scene was just like everything to me. I still keep watching it and like get the butterflies in my stomach.
It's so good. The cinematography, like all of it, it's pitch perfect.
It's so good.
And it was one of those things where I was like, well, I just watched the best hour of television I've ever seen. And then we got episode 5 after that, which just honorable mention to Scott and Kip, on the ice for that scene. Even though it took Kip, half a day to get down to the ice. When that episode ended with then, Ilya calling, like full on calling Shane while they're watching, Scott Hunter come out on the ice after winning the cup. And Ilya calls Shane and is like, I'm coming to the cottage. Like,
I love
That's it.
Yeah. The way, and then the best
like
part too is
kicking my feet. Like, so
yes. And it was so fun to then be in the fandom of this. Like I haven't like this was a really fun fandom because then we were like in the fandom, we were getting the memes, we're going to the cottage. Like Christmas be damned, we're all going to the cottage this Christmas. And it felt so cool to like be a part of that as well. Thank you, Heated Rivalry.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and like what are your thoughts? We're definitely getting people who aren't familiar with like romance watching this show. Either they haven't read romance books or the like, and we're getting a lot of like hot takes. I'm just wondering like what are our thoughts on some of the reactions to people that aren't really like clued into the romance community like we are.
I love that you brought up what Jacob Tierney did, that he started reading romance and was like, why aren't people talking about this more? And then he basically like deep dived the lore of the romance industry and saw how it was treated and denigrated and decided to do something about it. And that's like, we've had some triggering stuff that we've already talked about on the podcast, like titles of articles, like this is doing so well and no one knows why. Everybody who's watching it knows why. Like, and that's the whole thing. So that's all I'm asking is if you don't know why, then you do a little deep dive rather than, clickbaiting and figure out why. Because romance is the biggest selling genre in the publishing industry. And there is a reason for it. And it's not because everybody reading it needs porn. This is what we're trying to tell you. This is why we love this show so much. This is why we need to talk about it. Because when romance is done right, like we want to shout it from the rooftops. When romance is appreciated, we want everybody to know about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because people are reacting to so the way I know romance conventions. So I'm watching the first episode and I'm giddy because I know what's going to come. I know what's coming. Are they just fucking in the first episode? Are they kind of mean to each other? Are they completely unemotional? Are they completely emotionally unavailable? Absolutely. That's the fun part because we know that that's going to shift. And I sometimes I see people be like, I don't know. I saw the first episode and I don't know. I'm just not into it. I'm not like feeling it. And it's like, that's because you don't know what's coming. Mm-hmm. That's because you don't know what's coming and you're not willing.
Yeah.
And you're not willing to let the show breathe. You're not willing to like let it play out.
So, okay. But I do want to say that like the forgiveness I want to give when this happens, because
True.
like it depends on the person and it depends on the statement because I've heard it all. And if there's people who are like, look, it's just not landing for me. Like I get people are like into it, but it's just not really landing for me. Then I try to think about like the fact of like, okay, I think that we have been traumatized by stories that have like not worked for people in so many ways. Like, so like for me and watching it, and it's just because I think that, so like, okay, I'm trying to think of like how I want to say this. For me watching it, I understood what it was going to do. Like I understood it was enemies to lovers. Once I saw there was like a lot of sexualized content right away, I was like, okay, we're going to have a lot of sexualized content and we're going to kind of like fuck to feelings. Like I was like, okay, I get that's what's going to happen. And even though I felt optimistic in the first episode, I would say that I was like, I did not know that how I would end up feeling about this show, like how I started. Like I was like, I really enjoy it. This feels fun. This feels like better than I was expecting. And I've been burned so many times by shows and adaptations that have been done poorly that I also just kind of assumed that I was like going to like it okay. Because in the end, I was like, it's going to maybe it'll be better than most, but I'm still probably going to be like, okay. And so if somebody so I want to give some grace to some people who because I was already suspicious and I was willing to keep going. And so if somebody else was like, look, I'm just seeing a lot of sex and like, I'm liking it, but like, I also don't have maybe as much experience that yes, they're going to get to feelings. Like, are those feelings going to matter? Am I going to care? I don't know. And so I do think I saw that. And those are the people that I would be like, no, please do continue. Cause I really think that it is going to change for you. And what I saw was that every single time it did, I haven't seen somebody yet get to the end and be like, I didn't you know what I mean? And then I have seen some more like cis men who've written me who have been like cis het men being like, I saw the first episode and like, whatever, I don't really get what the fuck. And I feel like there was an element of like, I tried. So I want like, I want like a
I want
flower.
flowers.
Yeah.
Give me my cookie for trying.
And it still wasn't for me and I need to let you know. In which case, like those were the ones that I was just like, you know what? I don't need to engage here. Like, what do you want? Like, I'm not going to. I enjoyed this because my labor wasn't required. So my labor is not going to be required to get you over the line to understand why everyone
Yep.
else liked it.
Yep.
And so I feel like if somebody is like coming from a place of like they've suffered just like disappointment and pain and genre and like that, then I'm like, yes, of course we can like explore it and be more like, you know, like let's talk it through and be curious. But yeah, if you're coming from the other space, I'm like, I can smell that shit from a mile away. Like I can smell condescension so quickly. And I'm just like, then fine, miss out on joy and curiosity and miss out on why. And if somebody really is going to like need to get their nut by writing clickbait that's like, but why, and never get to the why, that's a bummer to me too. But that's also like not our problem right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we know why it's doing. Like no one in the romance, like that's the thing. Like
No
in
one's,
my
no one's
bubble,
confused.
in the romance community, no one's confused why this is doing well. We're like, of course this is doing well because you adapted a sexy romance novel accurately and you gave us the romance conventions we like and we see it and we can tell you respected it. We can tell you love the romance and you made the romance the point and the plot and gave us all the background on the characters that we love. You gave them their goal, motivation, conflict, like we get it. It is interesting to me sometimes to see I've seen reactions from people who don't read romance books. So we know there's like plenty of romance scenes that like Rachel uses that like we romance authors use. Like I saw a reaction to the last episode where like, you know how they're like making a joke about showing Ilya the guest room? Like how many romance
Yeah.
novels have you read where that's what you do? Like you kind of have your characters be like, okay, I'll show you the guest room just so the other character can be like, you know, absolutely not. Like we're sleeping together. It's a
Right.
very common romance cliche that we love. Like we love that. And I saw some like people who were reacting to that scene. They're like, oh my God, why would he suggest that? And it's like, dude, read a romance book. Like this is like, these are romance conventions we like. Like this is things we're looking for. And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like Jacob Tierney, it was just like dog whistle after dog whistle for romance fans.
Yeah. And that's where I feel like sometimes I've tried to like not ever, because I never want to look like I live in fear of always being like misrepresented or misunderstood. Is there'll be times where I'll be like, yeah, it's really good. That is like a romance thing. And I'm never trying to be like, like sometimes I feel like I'm not trying to sell it short. I'm not trying to sell this show
No.
short by saying that. I'm trying to, so I think it's the best way to frame it as this book used a trope really well in this scene, this scene, and this scene. And there's lots of other books that use tropes really well. And so it's not like, and so like whatever to them. It's like, so more, there's more of that. Basically, like, guess what? There's more of this.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, yeah, like Rachel does a really good job, but and in addition to that, you can get this more. You can get this if you would read romance
Can
books.
I throw in a surprise question that I just thought of now? Because this is one thing that's on my mind is I'm afraid that now there's going to be this thought of like, now we need, and if you are a queer hockey romance writer, yay for you, truly. Like I'm not looking to take your nut.
And I know that they're experiencing I'm friends with a writer who's been writing like gay hockey romance for a while, and she's like, I'm absolutely seeing an extreme boost in sales. And I'm like, yeah, of course you
yay.
are.
And I mean, genuinely yay.
Yeah, and yay. Yeah.
And what I also get nervous about is when you especially go to like what seems to happen like with like American productions is, well, I guess people just like instead of having any curiosity or anything, it'll be like, I guess people just want to see like queer hockey fucking, I don't know, like let's just do that. So I guess I'm like trying to say, what would be an adaptation that you feel like would really work for the screen? It doesn't have to be hockey, but what would be can you think of another like book that you feel like would work well as an adaptation? Bonus, ideally queer, I would say, just given the context of like what Heated Rivalry was. And I can go first because I have mine ready.
Yeah,
And
well, can I just say something real quick? It's just then this is what's funny is that after I read Heated Rivalry, I realized, and this is what I also want people to think about, if they're like, I really like that, I like the trope. What I found is after I finished Heated Rivalry, I then searched out rival romances. That's what I wanted more of.
That's good. Yeah.
That's what because I think that's what people are. Yes, this queer. I actually did search out queer rivals. That's like I wanted to read more of that. It didn't have to be sports, but I wanted I wanted that rival feeling. That's what I wanted, and I kind of wanted like enemies to lovers. So I also want people to kind of challenge themselves to. I don't think you want queer hockey. I think you want the dynamic between them. So anyway, go ahead, Leah. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think also I'm going to take it a step further for people who are just like, oh, I didn't realize that like like MLM story, like I didn't realize I would like these. Like I just didn't expect that to be something that was going to resonate for me. I have the vehicle that I've been like, how do I get this into Connor Story's like sexy little paws? Because I want him to star in the next vehicle. So it is Hamartia by Scarlett Drake.
Heck yeah.
And when I say that it is a trope that as a categorical rule, because I always curse myself when I say I dislike this trope. I will never like it. I find something where I become obsessed with it. It is the probably number one trope that I dislike for like no sane reason. I just never like it. And that is it's a rock star romance.
Same. I usually
cannot
don't
tell you how much I dislike rock star romance. And like not because like somebody like has hurt me with it. It's just I'm never ever interested in it. And I'm going to say this is in my top 5 books of all time of how much I like it. And it's a rock star K-pop idol romance. And I don't know, I feel like this is a goated book. And what it gets right is it's not a rivalry romance by any stretch, but I think it really gets across like the stakes of relationships well, just kind of like Heated Rivalry did, which I think like adds like a lot of external conflict and mirrors the internal conflict. But it's a really, really compelling, heartfelt, super angsty book with a super strong HEA. So Megan, I know you've read it. Amy, I don't believe you've read it.
I haven't yet.
Yeah, so I have one, and it's funny because I feel like I've mentioned this book on the podcast before, but I think at the time I couldn't remember the author or the name of the book. And I recently started like rereading the series, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just found this book again. So I would die to see this adapted. I think it would be so freaking cool. So it's called Show Me Wonders, and it is by Riley Nash. And this is about these two men who are stuck together. Basically, they meet when their train crashes in a tunnel. So they can't see each other. It's like completely dark. Everyone's basically like dead on this like train crash, but these two keep each other alive, and they're all they have. And because they don't know if they're going to be rescued, they really are vulnerable with each other. They open up to each other. The one is a single dad, and the other is basically like on the run from like the law. So when they actually, I don't really want to tell the whole plot, but there's, you know, the angst of this book is incredible. I think it's so cool. Would it be hard to adapt them in the dark? Like, yeah, but I think Jacob Tierney could do it. It still is like this book that like always sort of like, I almost can't reread it because it really put me through the ringer, but I think it would be really cool to see on the screen. Is it super joyful? No, but again, it's a romance novel, so it does have a happily ever after, and it has a really beautiful happily ever after.
That's a fun meet cute.
I mean, I guess fun.
I mean, I use fun with like quotes.
Yeah.
And the one that I'm going to share is, it's been a few years since I read this, so I just kind of brought up the blurb, but it's called The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzi Lee.
It's so good.
It's so good. And the audio is fantastic. Like I need to listen to British novels with British accents, right? With characters who are supposed to be British. So, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue is a witty historical young adult novel about Henry Montague, a bisexual English lord on a grand tour of Europe with his best friend Percy and sister Felicity, which turns into a chaotic adventure filled with romance, self-discovery, and hijinks as they flee across the continent after a reckless decision. Um, and I mean, there's a lot that happens in this, but it's basically like Monty is like your typical, um, wealthy English lord who doesn't want to grow up. And so his family's like, this is it. You get to do like your big tour of London, and then you come home and you like assume your position in the family. And mentioning that he's, bisexual in the beginning, because Monty is always having dalliances with everybody, anybody and everybody who will have him, and everybody will have him because he's that kind of guy. But there is a secret longing going on between him and his best friend, and it is a best friends to lovers romance, and it's so fantastic. And then Felicity gets her own book, and Felicity, I believe, Felicity's book, just if you want to go on with the series, 'cause it's also really good, is The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. And Felicity is, I believe, ace, if I remember it correctly. And it's all about how like you don't need this great love per se, to complete you, that like you can sort of, complete yourself. If I'm remembering it, it's been a long time since I've read these books, but they're so, so good. But The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, I would watch a good
I would too.
adaptation of that in a fucking heartbeat.
I would too. It's so, if you haven't read it, it's really
Yeah,
a
I haven't
fun.
read that, so I'll put it on my list for sure.
It's really fun.
It's
Also, it stood out to me because it had a smart cover. Like, I feel like a lot of times covers just like miss the mark. Like, I'm always curious, especially with historicals, how they brand historicals. And this one to me gives and yeah. So, like, one of my side notes of critiquing historicals is something like A Knight's Tale feels very fun because they put some like modern sensibility. And I'm not saying all
yes.
historicals need to have this, but like sometimes I think people forget historicals can feel fun and edgy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, I feel like the cover, just with the font and like the way it's set up, like it gives me a little bit of that feel of like if they did more historical branding with kind of just some kind of creativity around it, I bet you would see an uptick in readers being like, oh, this feels a little bit more accessible to me. Because I think there's a lot of readers who just love historical and are all in, but there's a lot of readers who would be all in, but they're like, I feel a little distance from like
That's
whatever.
me.
Yeah.
That's me. And it literally, the cover of this, I'm like, this looks super fun. And it was super fun.
Yeah. And I think if they branded more like that, I think you would see an uptick in historical readers, honestly. And the book is still very historical, but it has a sense of fun in itself that I think is really awesome.
So we did kind of touch on this. If you haven't listened to our episode, that's basically Hear Me Out Netflix, where we kind of springboard off of what we liked about Heated Rivalry and how we think people can replicate the success a little bit. But I guess, what can show creators learn from Heated Rivalry's success if they want to make their own romance novel adaptations?
First, have it done by somebody who's Canadian.
Yeah, have it done by Jacob Tierney. No,
Or have it done by Jacob Tierney. But like truly, and this is because my whole algorithm is all Heated Rivalry and Stranger Things, I've learned a lot about the actors. First of all, you can do a lot on a small budget. Like you said, this was shot in like 37 days. I think one of my local friends who's also watching it, I think she told me that they made like $6,600 an episode.
Yeah.
Hudson Williams and Connor Story. Just because an actor isn't a celebrity yet doesn't mean they can't crush it. Because Connor Story found out that he got the part a week before, like heading to set. And so he is not Russian, you guys. If you don't know that, Connor Story is not Russian.
he's from
And
Texas.
He began learning Russian a week before shooting began with a dialect coach, and then worked every day of the shoot with his dialect coach. The woman who plays Svetlana, she is part Russian. She's Russian American, I think. And she said Russian is her first language. And she is like, Connor, crushed it. Like his Russian, not just like his pronunciation, but like his understanding of like what he was saying when he was saying it. Um, yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing. And we've said this before, but like I'll say it again, when it's done well, and it was done well, like Rachel Reid did it well in the book, and Jacob Tierney did it well in the adaptation. When you do a romance well, the romance can be the whole story.
You know what? Just take me to dinner and I'll tell you all the things to make. That's all. Like,
Take me to-
and I think what we can see from like K-drama too is like pay attention to what the lessons are learned. Like you don't need to replicate the exact same
Right.
cookie cutter, but you want the same ingredients. So when you said like you left and you were like, I want more rivalry romances. Well, so I'd say, yeah, like think of what the core trope is, and then how can you get good tropes in new creative stories? Because people want they're chasing the trope. And so just
Chasing.
remember that they're chasing the trope. So give that trope really well. And so again, I'm not trying to say don't give another hockey. Like don't be like, well, we've done our queer hockey story. We're done for that now. Done, done, done. No, not at all. But remember, it's trope. You're looking for trope and replicating trope.
Yeah, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but also like give us a good conflict, give us good hooks, and include like the intimacy as part of the story, because that is one thing that most romance novels nowadays are, well, they were back, of all time, I should say, are doing really well, is that they make the intimacy part of the story, and that's one thing that Heated Rivalry did, but give us good hooks, give us good conflict, and honestly, like, give us some angst. And like, all I kept thinking was, like, give us like atonement level angst and yearning, but give us a happily ever after. Give me Cold Mountain level angst and yearning, make it a happily ever after. And people are writing that in the romance community. We're writing romance novels like that, with the angst, with the yearning, with the good conflict. But then you're also giving us joy in it. You're giving us joy. And that's what I want more of. And also, yeah, like give us new actors for God's sakes. Like that's one of the best parts about this too, is that the romance community is so excited about like launching, like helping to launch careers. Like we're excited about this, you know? Do we maybe feel like an ownership of these men now?
Maybe a
And
little.
some people need to like back off, yes. But we're also going to
Protective ownership.
yeah, and we're going to patronize things that they do. You know what I mean? So that is my biggest thing right now, is I hope they're getting paid. Like I hope they're getting endorsements. I hope they're getting pay them, you know, because I know they didn't get rich off of Heated
Well,
Rivalry.
they're
Like we all know
narrating
that.
gay erotica now on Quinn, so there's that.
Yeah, that is lovely. I can't wait. I will be yeah, and also people don't pirate it. Do not pirate this. So yeah, I hope you guys have watched it if you're listening. If you haven't, you got to try.
I hope you
Get a
will.
VPN. And this is when I'll support, like if you can't get it in your country.
I know, I didn't know that like the UK doesn't have it. I'm so sorry. You're getting it soon though.
The
Yeah.
UK doesn't have it yet. They're either, you know, people have to use a VPN to watch, but the UK is getting it. And I think more countries are getting it soon just because people want it. Like they're like clamoring for it because it's, I mean, like, you know, HBO, I'm not giving them any credit for making this, but like, thank you for being a distributor, like for real. Cause I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm like, how do I get Crave? What Canadian do I know? What Canadian can I hit up for a password? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to watch this? So I was happy that I was able to, and I'm glad that my husband decided to still keep our HBO subscription in effect because I wasn't even sure. I don't know the last thing I watched on HBO. So anyway, we want to hear what you guys think about Heated Rivalry. We know a lot of you watched it, so let us know what you think. And I hope you enjoyed our discussion of it.
And Happy New Year, because this is dropping on New Year's Eve.
My God, you're
What
right.
a way to start 2026. Go watch Heated Rivalry.
Go. You will not regret it. Okay.
And if you don't like it, just don't tell us about it.
Don't tell us. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, because I tell you what, the three of us, we love
it's
it.
not going to fly.
Yeah, we will. we aren't really here for.
We're not here for criticism of the show.
Sorry. Heated rivalry must be protected at all costs. So yeah, Happy New Year. Thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week with K-dramas.
Annyeong.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoon of Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoon of Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!